Nothing in your life is stopping you. That's the problem. You're not blocked. You're delayed. Later doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels responsible. It feels like you're protecting your life from becoming harder than it already is. You don't feel stuck. You feel prudent. You keep things running. You stay reliable. You manage the load. Days fill up, weeks disappear, and because everything keeps working, the delay feels harmless. But every time you choose later, something quietly shrinks. Not your schedule, your life. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough that you don't notice it happening. Stickman shifts once, holds. Point 1. You treat later like a safe container. You don't abandon the idea, you store it. You tell yourself you're being thoughtful, that rushing would be irresponsible, that good decisions take time. So you place your wants on a shelf labeled, "Not now." The hidden cost isn't disappointment, it's compression. Every time you postpone something meaningful, you shrink the space it's allowed to occupy in your life. It goes from possibility to background noise. The loop sustains itself because storage feels different than denial. You haven't let go, you've just delayed. But delayed things don't stay intact. They fade. They lose urgency. They stop feeling real. Stickman reaches toward a box, pulls back. Point 2. Responsibility rewards delay. Your life runs on dependability. People rely on you. Systems expect you to show up. And every time you choose later, responsibility nods in approval. You're being sensible. You're prioritizing. You're doing what needs to be done. The cost hides inside that praise. Later becomes proof that you're the kind of person who puts life on hold for the right reasons. That self-sacrifice equals character. The loop tightens because delay is socially invisible. No one questions it. No one challenges it. In fact, it often looks like maturity. So the more responsible you become, the more distance grows between who you are and what you want. Stickman stands taller. Box stays closed. Point 3. Later turns desire into something abstract. At first, you can picture what you're postponing. It feels specific, alive. Over time, it turns vague. You stop imagining details. You stop rehearsing what it would actually feel like. The idea becomes a concept instead of a direction. The cost is subtle erosion. When something loses detail, it loses power. It stops pulling on you. It stops competing with your current life. The loop holds because abstraction feels safer. Wanting something clearly creates tension. Wanting it vaguely feels manageable. So later keeps things blurry on purpose. Stickman fades slightly. Returns. Here's the shift. Later isn't neutral time. It's a decision that keeps renewing itself. Every time you choose later, you're not just postponing something. You're teaching yourself what kind of life you're allowed to live. Stickman freezes center frame. Point 4. Later protects your current identity. You've built a version of yourself that works. Reliable, rational, easy to explain. What you postpone often doesn't fit cleanly inside that identity. So later becomes a buffer, a way to avoid confronting the mismatch between who you are and what you want. The cost isn't conflict, it's containment. By delaying, you never have to test whether your current identity can survive expansion. You don't have to face the possibility that the life you built might be too small for you now. The loop sustains itself because identity likes consistency. It prefers delay over disruption. Stickman boxed by invisible lines again. Point 5. Later removes the need to decide who you are. Later keeps your options open. At least, that's what it feels like. As long as nothing is decided, nothing is lost. You don't have to choose a direction. You don't have to close doors. You don't have to confront trade-offs. The hidden cost is identity suspension. You stay undefined on purpose. Not because you're unsure, but because choosing would force you to let something go. The loop sustains itself because later preserves ambiguity. And ambiguity feels safer than commitment when you're responsible for more than just yourself. So you keep your life flexible in theory, while rigid in practice. Nothing locks in. Nothing expands. Stickman stands between two paths. Doesn't move. Point 6. Time keeps passing, but the window doesn't feel real. Years move forward. You notice it on paper. Birthdays, anniversaries, calendars changing. But internally, later still feels available. You tell yourself you have time, that nothing is urgent yet, that the window hasn't closed. The cost is false spaciousness. Later creates the illusion that opportunity is infinite, that life will wait until you're ready. The loop works because urgency feels dramatic, and you don't see yourself as dramatic. You see yourself as measured. So you keep assuming there will be a better moment, a cleaner moment, a moment that asks less of you. Stickman looks toward a clock. It keeps moving. Point 7. Later slowly redefines what enough means. At some point, you stop expecting expansion. You adjust your definition of satisfaction instead. You tell yourself you don't need much, that contentment is a mindset, that wanting more is optional. The cost is quiet resignation. Later trains you to settle without admitting you've settled. You don't grieve what you postponed. You just shrink your expectations to match your life. The loop completes itself when smaller feels normal. When the absence of growth stops registering as loss. Stickman sits, doesn't move. It makes sense that you chose later. It protected what you had to protect. There's no failure in delay, but there is weight in carrying everything unfinished. Stickman exhales once. Later will always sound reasonable. It will always have good arguments. But later doesn't keep things safe. It keeps them small. Not all at once. Slowly, quietly, over years. And the danger isn't that you waited. It's that waiting became your default relationship with your own life. Stickman out.